Are you guys prepared for a doom and gloom video? Because that's what's on the docket today. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And yeah, it looks like the video game industry is not on the best of paths. And in this video, we're going to talk about not just the numbers, explaining the rationale behind that, but why I feel like this is something that can't be fixed. Smash JT. Check out smashjt.com for my full article breaking down the information in this story. But for this video, I'm going to talk about the specifics that really caught my eye, starting with a CNBC article talking about PlayStation 5 and their lack of numbers. Layoffs are everywhere, and Sony has seen a staggering $10 billion drop in USD. $10 billion dropped in its market value. This financial downturn comes on the heels of the company slashing its sales forecast on top of that for the PlayStation 5 in the current fiscal year. Originally, they set the bar so high with a goal of 25 million units, and Sony has since adjusted that down 4 million units lower to 21 million. However, this adjustment is just the tip of the iceberg with Sony's problems, and really, when you pull the lens back, the video game industry on the whole. And while analysts aren't always correct, they do typically have a good finger on the pulse of the direction of where an industry is headed. And in this specific situation, many of the video game analysts had already cast doubt on Sony's ambitious PlayStation 5 sales target. But more alarming issue had even surfaced: the dwindling profit margins in its crucial gaming sector. Despite the lowered sales forecast, per CNBC, what truly caught my eye, and the eye of industry experts, was the operating margin of the games division, barely reaching 6% for the December quarter. That figure is a sharp decline from the more than 9% margin seen in the same quarter the previous year, and even further from the 12 to 13% margins enjoyed in the first 4 years of the PlayStation 5 leading up to early 2022. So what's really going on when you dig underneath here? Why are the margins shrinking for Sony in particular here? And when you dive a little bit deeper, you see the exorbitant costs going into these AAA titles. Specifically, I'm talking like Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 costing upwards of $300 million to create, to market, develop, and put that game out there. And sure, they made their money back, but not enough to be back so that they're making 20% margins on the game, which is what they aim for every year. And that doesn't even take into account games like Grand Theft Auto 6 that are rumored to have a budget of between $1 and $3 billion with a B to create that game. And sure, it's been in development for, some would say, over a decade, and it's the mainstay for Take-Two Entertainment and Rockstar Games. Sure, that's their baby. They got to make sure that it works. But at the end of the day, if they're only charging between $60 and $70 for a new game, how many copies would they have to sell to turn a profit? The truth is, it's not sustainable. And these game companies know that. So right now, it almost feels like they're trying to make the money and get out before it all comes crashing down. So the situation raises concerns not just for Sony, not just for Rockstar and Take-Two, but the entire game industry on the whole. Look what's been going on with Microsoft over the past month alone, where they had 1,900 layoffs in their physical games department. They're merging a bunch of stuff together, and they're all over the place with the mapping of what they're trying to do because they can't figure out how to make it work. If giants like Sony and Microsoft, with all the resources and high-margin products that are available, are facing such financial pressures, what does it mean for everyone else? What about Nintendo? Maybe they're doing their own thing and on an island themselves, because yes, Nintendo was just announced to be the most valuable company in all of Japan. So at least Nintendo seems to be doing something right. But then again, you hear that the Switch 2 is being pushed back a year, and that's dropping Nintendo's stock right away. And it almost feels like there's this genuine uncertainty throughout the entire video game industry, especially from the big players. This situation points to a very uncomfortable truth. The video game industry, as we know it, is facing significant challenges that could impact the future growth and sustainability of everything involved with it. And I don't mean to be super doom and gloom with this video, but it's just like my raw feelings and sentiment of realizing what's happening right now and seeing the facts for what they are and putting the pieces together and realizing that this is not sustainable like it used to be. And the graphics improvements from generation to generation are getting slighter and smaller than they ever were before. You couple that with how Sony is making more money than ever, migrating their games over to PC. Just look at Helldivers 2 and the success that's seeing when it had a same-day release. It almost feels like everything is just migrating towards PC Master Race these days. And no, I don't feel like the video game industry would ever completely end as we know it, but I do feel like we're on the brink of collapse for some major players. This is not sustainable. Putting hundreds of millions and sometimes upwards of billions of dollars into a single game just to have it developed, produced, and published is not something that can make its money back in the long run. And maybe you'll get the one-off, the Grand Theft Auto that proves people wrong, or they'll raise the price to $150 a game to make their money back on it. But that is not sustainable for every game company and every game developed to do. I posted my article to Twitter X earlier today and already got a few responses on there on how people feel about the situation of the video game industry is dying. And the Thunderdome Gaming Society tweeted back, different perspective here. It's evolving. And yes, I guess if you want to split hairs on what word definitions are, is it dying? Maybe the old model of the gaming industry is dying or on its way out the door, and a new model will replace it. And I guess you could call that evolution. But I guess the main point of what I'm trying to get at with this is what we know about how the gaming industry used to work is not how the future of the gaming industry is going to be working. Also had JP Shadowman write, I don't know about the video game industry dying, but I can understand how Sony's grotesqueries against their consumers and employees making you feel that way. Which is true. If you haven't been around the channel for a while, you might not have seen I've made quite a few videos talking about how Sony is just completely out of touch with their own consumer, raising the prices of PS Plus on the monthly fees and over 30% for an annual fee for an already overly priced system in place is beyond flawed to me and many other people. And that in itself is not sustainable. Xbox Game Pass is somewhat more affordable, but even with that, the price has been going up steadily, and it's something that you don't own the game at the end of the day. It's just a long-term rental, and there are people that are looking at that business model as not something they'd want to participate in the long run. Physical always seems to make its comeback. But the problem comes in with the cost of the physical games and how game manufacturers already know they can make way more money by selling them digitally. They don't have to pay for the packaging, the shipping, the money going to the store. No, if you get all your money directly from the storefront on your digital storefront, then you don't have to split it with anybody else. Ergo, you make a much higher percent of the end cost and the margins. So you get to where you want to be by doing it that way, but that would require all your customers to be on board with an only digital model moving forward. And I feel like they've been testing the waters all the way back with the original Xbox One, where it was initially going to be all digital, and consumer pushback made Microsoft completely change that dynamic of the system not being online all the time and changing everything about the interface just to make sure they can still compete. Maybe as time has gone on, people have been more accepting of it, but I don't really feel like we're there yet. And that could be looked at as a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what you want out of the game industry. But based off of what I'm saying right now, I think you can gather the entire situation is convoluted as all hell and really confusing to the average customer that just wants to pick up a game console and play the latest game? Will they be able to reverse trend and revitalize the gaming divisions of Sony and Microsoft and even Nintendo to a certain extent? Or is this a sign of a deeper issue within the video game industry at large? Only time is going to tell, but one thing is clear. The industry is at a crossroads, and the decisions made now will shape the future for years to come. I gotta be honest though, it looks grim at the moment, but hey, at least we'll always have retro video games to go back to, and I don't know, if it does all collapse and come crashing down, well, I'll be able to get to the backlog finally and play those games that everyone tells me I have to get to at some point, that I've been promising myself that eventually I would. But that is the situation we find ourselves in right now. There is a lot going on under the hood. When you pull the camera back and see everything that's happening in the industry right now, it's not a pretty picture. And it doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Let me know in the comments below. Again, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link it in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, you stay smashing. Smash,